out there, everyone? Today I'm going to be talking about this classic 1986 film directed by David Lynch called Blue Velvet. And this is a flick that is absolutely one of the weirdest movies I've seen. It's just incredibly strange, but also incredibly just delightful to experience. It's really the quintessential Lynch film in some ways. People like to call Mulholland Drive a little more accomplished, and while that may be true, I think the real marrow of who David Lynch is as a filmmaker could probably be best summed up by Blue Velvet. It of course also stars a perfectly deranged Dennis Hopper, who in 1986 had just basically come back from exile. He had really just blackballed himself with his substance abuse and erratic behavior after Apocalypse Now and other flicks that he was in the mid to late 70s. And he managed to get his act together and successfully get through rehab. And in 1986 was in 3 films that year that were all terrific. Blue Velvet, Hoosiers, where I believe he got an Academy Award nomination, and A River's Edge, which is a really weird flick. I don't actually own that one, but it's a movie that is absolutely worth a watch as well. But the upshot is that's 3 terrific films and terrific performances by Dennis Hopper that really got him back in the game. But Blue Velvet, my goodness, it's crazy. This is Criterion's Blu-ray release. It looks terrific as per usual, and it has some great artwork on the disc, production stills. Room 710 is the damsel's apartment number in this apartment building, where it's set in a fictitious town in North Carolina called Lumberton. And here we are, Dennis Hopper, Frank Booth, probably one of the most terrifying villains ever put to film. He was so incredibly unhinged and truly strange. In many ways, he represents like unbridled id with no filter, no impulse control, and basically the epitome, basically unbridled lust and rage, often depicted figuratively by fires by David Lynch. That's one of his motifs, but he just did a terrific job bringing that sort of character to life. It's truly a terrifying antagonist. And then of course the lovely Isabella Rossellini, who did an incredible job very bravely performing a difficult character to bring to life. And then we have here Mr. Dean Stockwell, may he rest in peace, as Dennis Hopper as well. It's hard to believe Dennis Hopper has passed away, but Dean Stockwell just recently passed, and he's got a smaller part, but he's quite good in it, and this was a very interesting scene in the film. So I'm not going to go into the plot and attempt to summarize it. Suffice to say, you really just have to go in cold and watch the movie and let it sort of envelop you. It's a film that is absolutely one of the strangest movies I've ever seen, and yet, despite all of the seeming depravity in the film, there's elements of genuine goodness that come to life by virtue of Kyle MacLachlan's character. He represents the sort of the antithesis of Frank Booth, but interestingly, one that's not without chinks in his armor. He represents youth that in many ways doesn't have the wisdom to recognize when he's in a situation or doing something that is potentially very harmful and going to lead him down a path that will lead to some serious consequences. So I find the gradations of sort of good and evil to be fascinating in Lynch's work, and in particular with Blue Velvet. So this Criterion release, I'll say just another comment about it. There's some wonderful deleted scenes in there, some great archival documentaries about the filming, and including some really interesting interviews with David Lynch. So I think this is definitely one of Criterion's better releases in terms of just how many really interesting supplemental materials there are in the film, and not to mention, of course, the lovely packaging, and the audio and visuals just look terrific. I'm sure at some point they're going to probably release this on 4K, but I honestly think the Blu-ray looks terrific as is. So on that note, I would just recommend you watch Blue Velvet, but just prepare yourself. It's really like nothing you've ever seen, and it definitely goes to some pretty dark places. So, but all the while leaving you with some light as well, and strangely a reason to feel optimistic about things despite it all. So take care, everyone, and until next time.